Hello and welcome back to Perspectives. On today's show, we have our usual roundup of stories affecting the Sikh community around the world, and we have the latest from the Punjab, where the student-led protests has scored a huge victory over the BJP government. More on that in a moment. And also in India, the troubling news that Jaggi Singh has deliberately been moved to a deeply dangerous new prison where his life is under serious threat. And yet, the British government remains stubbornly silent, and it appears has been actively campaigning instead for the release of another British citizen detained in India. What's the difference? Well, I think our audience can probably guess. More on that later. Anyway, all that and more on today's show, but joining me as always is our very own correspondent in Canada, James Cousineau. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Angus, and good morning to our viewers out there. Thanks again to all of the viewers who have been flooding us with some amazing comments and also the Critics' Corner. So we're happy to see that we are getting that dialogue. Once again, just a reminder that if you wish to support the channel, of course, we are not monetized, and therefore we rely on Satellite TV and the generosity of our supporters and viewers. So again, you can follow the link tree in the description for the video, and you can find out how you can support the channel and the other platforms in which you can watch. If YouTube just isn't cutting it for you, you can check out the other platforms that Satellite is on as well. Other than that, folks, keep the comments coming in. We love it. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And of course, share with your friends and family and even strangers. Let them know about this show. We appreciate you being a part of it. Back to you, Angus.
Yes, indeed. Please do. And in the meantime, James and I together will be bringing you our perspectives on the daily news affecting the Sikh community around the world. And of course, as usual, we will be taking a look at loads of you great comments which poured in last week after many of our videos. So thank you as always for that. Right, James, as always, loads to get through. What are you going to start us off with this morning?
We do, and a updated announcement or a breaking announcement by the Sikh riders. They have announced that Lt Col Pritam Singh has passed away. He was a very instrumental force in allowing Sikhs to wear their turbans inside of the Royal Canadian Legions, and I just wanted to bring that up, that he has reportedly passed away peacefully in Surrey, British Columbia. So again, a part of his legacy, not only through the many awards that he won as a soldier and representing Canada as a honorable member of our military, but again, really taking it forward to allow Sikhs to wear their turbans inside of the Canadian Legions. So to his family, to his friends and associates, we send our sincere condolences and best wishes for the family. So again, he'll always be remembered for his success. As we move on, we are looking at an update from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They just released another update a few days ago, and that was in relation to the ongoing extortion task force that's going on in British Columbia, as well as partner programs in other parts of the country, including Brampton, Ontario, of course. Now, just in summary, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I think that we've heard a lot of the same information coming out. But I thought that there were a few points here. Of course, that they are, again, meeting with the city of Surrey as well as the province of British Columbia and committed a lot more resources, again, to this issue. And we'll go over that a bit more in depth tomorrow night in a breakdown with the city and the provincial level as well as the federal level, and look at the new funding and new commitments that are being made, because they are actually making a lot of inroads, apparently. But what they are stating in this particular release is that they are really trying to make sure that the community understands the significance of reporting any incidents of extortion or extortion attempts, while at the same time they're limited information releases because they are utilizing a lot of intelligence-based information that is coming in or that they are obtaining, and therefore they are not releasing a lot of those details, and they're just asking the public to be patient because with these investigations they are quite significant. Now, other parts of the announcement that I thought were important to bring up is the announcement that there has been an arrest in Delhi related to the shooting of the Caps Cafe. So there has been an arrest made, and we will follow follow up that throughout the week here as we get more details coming out. But that is a huge step that the arrest took place in Delhi as opposed to here in Canada. So that's good news as well, showing that although we are not seeing a lot of details of the cooperation between the India law enforcement and Canadian, this I think is a significant sign that there is a lot more going on behind the scenes than what we've been seeing publicly. So that is also good news. And then the other one point I want to bring up that we've spoken of before is that the CBSA, Canadian Border Security Service agency, has also been very involved. They have now deported 5 individuals who were inadmissible to Canada, but also suspected to be involved. We've spoken of that previously, so they again repeated that, but they've also said that 96 individuals are being targeted as being inadmissible, and that their top priority is to have these people ejected from Canada as soon as possible, because although something that we talked about previously is that although there may be low-level involvement in criminality, basically the border services and the RCMP agree that it is more expeditious to get them out of the country and refuse them re-entry, as it would be a lengthy and drawn-out court process for the lower level crimes. For any serious and violent crimes, anybody that is arrested will face the full wrath of the Canadian judicial system. Now, of course, with that said, there is the question about whether or not the judicial system is working fast enough, or whether or not it has enough teeth to actually make a big dent or to cause fear within these individuals. And again, of course, the Bishnoi gang comes up. As, of course, Carney and Modi have been meeting at the different G7, G20, and other summits to talk about trade, and they are looking by 2030 to increase that in multiples of billions of dollars to increase the trade. Now, Canada has recently come out and said that, yes, they understand the concerns of safety when it comes to the transnational repression and the foreign interference at the hands of the Modi government. However, what they've also said is that given this current trade market around the world, in particular the instability of U.S. trade, they say that they are looking to other markets to initiate trade, to expand, and be less reliant on the United States. With that said, they do acknowledge that there are nations that they are looking at doing trade with that may not be aligned with Canadian interests and Canadian security, and therefore they are putting it over to CSIS and the RCMP to ensure that they increase the monitoring of any delegates or others who are coming in from India that may play a role within the transnational repression or foreign interference and other areas of concern by Canadian security officials. Now, there has been some statements stating that India has recognized that Canada has completely capitulated security, sovereignty, rule of law. And that was the legal counsel, of course, from the World Sikh Organization. And he went on further to say that I think India is going to take advantage of that. And that is still a real concern and an ongoing theme across Canada when it comes to this. They feel that basically the Canadian government is giving what India wants while not respecting our rule of law and our sovereignty here. And that, again, is being really vocalized by the Sikh community, but also others as well. Now, Singh went on to state that we need to stop the shootings and extortions. We need to have some sort of an explanation from Indian officials as to how the Lawrence Bishnoi, or how he is been in an Indian prison for more than a decade, and yet he is still very active and very effectively running his international crime syndicate from a jail cell. So again, real questions that we've been asking and different stories that we've covered, and we know that there seems to be a lot of corruption. Now, of course, it is very curious that they are looking, and even India has stated that they are happy to see that the Lawrence Bishnoi gang is being designated as a terrorist group in Canada, while at the same time we're looking at India saying, why are you allowing him to operate from that jail cell? So a real contradiction there. They went on to state, that is one of the representatives from India, he said that we had the brother of Lawrence Bishnoi, who is in jail. The brother was in the U.S., has been just been extradited last week by the Americans to India to face charges. So we're taking action up front on whatever intelligence we have about the gangs. So again, very interesting wording from India, or their representative in the world of diplomacy. They are acknowledging some level here, which we haven't seen before. And I think that maybe that's just, more lip service as opposed to them actually taking a real stance. We'll have to watch and see what happens when when Lawrence Bishnoi's brother is facing the justice system in India, and we'll go from there. But at the end of the day, it says that it is clear economic reasons that Canada now has to deal with countries that are prepared to act contrary to our interests. And again, at the bottom, it's where they say, excuse me, that it'll be up to CSIS to make sure the Indian diplomats don't get up to their old tricks. And then to close out, it says whether we trade with them or not, whether we have a diplomatic relationship with them or not, we're going to continue to have to watch them. A very telling tale that there seems to be some movement behind the scenes, but at the same time, is it really enough? Or is it just, Modi trying to placate the Canadian government? Now, moving on to here in Canada, in the city of Windsor, Ontario, a big weekend happened, or a big week last week. There were many ceremonies, of course, for Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib, and that was no exception in the city of Windsor. They've actually opened up a new diversity garden that will bear that name and be honored for the 350th anniversary. Now, this is the first of its park of its kind in Canada, and it was officially opened at the Captain John Wilson Park. The new green space is called, as I said, the Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Diversity Garden, and there were a lot of members of the Sikh community on hand to officially open it. I wanted to give a special shout out to Harjinder Singh Kandola, Kamaljit Kaur Kandola, and Triman Singh Kandola for their generous $50,000 contribution towards this initiative, and also to the mayor of Windsor for making this happen as well. It really brought together people of different nationalities, but at the end of the day, they're all citizens of the city of Windsor, and they are looking to place just a huge symbol of unity, I think, that recognizes the major contributions of the Sikh community there in Windsor, and of course across Canada as a greater community. So again, congratulations there. And the next time I'm in the Windsor area, I will definitely stop by and spend a few minutes to visit the gardens and to see how they are. I'm sure that in the summertime they are going to be beautiful. So we'll get at some point we'll get some photos of that in the spring or summer when the garden is in bloom. As we go back to Canada here, stay in Canada, and on the East Coast, there has been a video that has gone viral online. And this was a Sikh coming in from the United States. He was at the border crossing and was questioned by border services agents. It came up that he has a criminal record, and in Canada, that means that he was convicted of some type of crime. And whether or not that is, it could be something such as a drunk driving or driving under the influence, and that in Canada would translate to a criminal conviction. Even if it wasn't related as such, it might have been a misdemeanor crime in the US. But in terms of translation to Canadian crime, and I'm not in any way saying that's what it was. I'm just giving an example, folks. We do not know what the criminal offense was. However, he wanted to try to make it a racial issue, but in in posting the video online. It actually showed quite a level of professionalism by the Canadian Border Services agent in explaining why he was being refused and what the grounds were and what his next steps were, as well as encouraging him that he was welcome to record it so that he could take it to his lawyer. If he didn't fully understand, the lawyer could help him to figure it out. And if there were mistakes made on his criminal record in the US, that his lawyer could help him to sort that out. But at this time, he wasn't. So here's a view of the video that's been going viral online.
Criminal. So this is discrimination for United States people of America. This is discrimination, sir. You read the video and your lawyer sees that you're working on evidence. So when we run your name in our Canadian database, you can't pay them. And when we take the evidence from your record and we equate it to the Canadian criminal, we're in this one. So you can interpret that however you want. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, ethnicity, religion, anything. We're making that decision based on an equation of your record in our system and Canadian criminal. So however you would like to interpret it, that's up to you. You can give me time because I can hold the these things if he has attorney. So because you take my all the information, my friend information, my godfather information, you don't take even my information, you take everybody information. Don't have your no, but you take my godfather information, my recent information, my American friend information, like phone number and name. So are doing your in study or your examination, see if they're admitted in Canada, see if they're working in Canada, to ask you about whether they're living here. Right. Sikh temple. You're gonna go Sikh temple and we pray over you. So if you Canada stop the pray, I can go back. So again, when you replay the video, you're gonna see that this has nothing to do with religion. That's a religion. I tell everybody I'm spiritual. And I can respect that. And I told you I have no religion. So this has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with anything about it. It has everything to do with the criminal record that makes you I have no criminal record. Then you can play the game when you are filming and you can film when you want. This is no game. I came from America, United States. That's great. You're making this. I'm coming from United States, America. I'm an American citizen. I have a right to film because you're refusing me to stay. I actually said, not me. Yeah, you're refusing me to stay Canada 7 days. So basically, you make me criminal here. I didn't make you criminal. Right, because you don't know. You don't know the paper. You might have no criminal record. That's why I can stay here. Can you please? Can you please show me where is criminal? Sure. And then after that, we can go to the next stage. Because I will put the game back and forth. I don't have time to go back and forth. I've explained to you. I've been respectful to you. And you're turning into the You're sending me back. This is no respect. I'm sending you back because you're innocent. And I told you, can you please pray to the thing? And you guys making me Canada is very criminal. So this is discrimination.
So as you can see, he's trying to declare it as discrimination, and there's over 2.7 thousand comments on the video. Most of them are actually supportive of the Border Services agent. They appreciated how respectful he was, how patient he was. And at the end of the day, it appears that he doesn't, the individual trying to enter Canada claims that he does not have a criminal record. Now, again, certain fines or misdemeanors in the US, when you translate them over to Canadian law, they become a criminal conviction equivalent under our statutes and our laws and our system. So again, that could be a part of the confusion there for the individual. And unfortunately, when you look at it in its totality, it was just trying to, come across the border. And although he was ineligible, 90% of people who do get to the border that are ineligible for admission already know that they are taking a chance. They already know that they have the inadmissibility or potentially that they're going to be refused at the border and will argue the point anyway. And unfortunately, I think that this, I would have to say, from what I've seen, I wasn't there, but everything that I've seen and the information I've gathered states or demonstrates that it was not racially motivated. It was nothing to do with race, religion, anything except for the criminal conviction that equates in Canada. So again, it was going viral, as you can see, and I just thought that it was important to take a look at. And by all means, we encourage our viewers to let us know what you think after watching the video that the individual posted online. And finally, we are going to close out this segment with some news from Australia, our friends down under that we don't pay enough attention to. It appears that another success has been born out of the challenging of the beard policy. Now, Ambulance Victoria had denied the ability of a Sikh 19-year-old to participate in his respiratory mask and other PPE training program and certification because he refused to shave his mustache and beard. We all know exactly why that is, but they refused, and it appears that although Prabjit Gill did challenge them and took them to the Human Rights Coalition or Tribunal there in Australia, it turns out that it didn't have to go that far. They ended up turning course and making the exception. They decided that the formal complaint didn't need to go through. They found accommodation and were able to work around it. So that change has now impacted any of the Sikhs that want to join the ambulance service as paramedics, and it is regardless as to whether it went all the way through the tribunal or not, it is a big success. And congratulations to this young man for standing his ground, for standing up for what was important to him. And we know that service to others and helping others is so essential within Sikhi that this is something that this young man was dedicated to, and he stuck it through. When they told him no, he didn't accept that, and he fought it because he was right. So again, it just goes on. It says it's more than just a win for Prabjit. It is a victory for multiculturalism. That was a spokesperson for the Australian Sikh Association, and it went on to state, it sends a clear message that Australians should not have to compromise their deeply held beliefs to serve their community. So once again, congratulations to Mr. Gill for standing up for himself, for being assertive and making that happen. Angus, good news, I think, for everyone, because we can always use more paramedics in the world, no matter where we're at.
Indeed we do, and it's actually a good sign because, again, I mean, we've reported on so many similar stories, whether it's the police service, whether it's the army, or any forces, whatever. These little victories, they are just each one is a little victory in itself, but they're all accumulative globally as well, because it means that a precedent is being set that then the next person along, the next Sikh along, having the same issue, can then at last has got more cases that he can, or she, of course, but these people. The Sikhs can then present these cases, these precedents. As that, look, in Australia, this guy has been allowed because ... and those same arguments can be rolled out, and it's much easier to win a victory when you've got precedents to prove your point. So again, it's important in that respect. So well done to them. The border guard video I thought was quite interesting because myself, I've had all sorts of experiences with both Canadian and US border guards, and I think one of the most difficult countries to get into, I'd say in my experience, was Canada. I spent, I think, about 2 hours being interrogated when I was passing through Canada very briefly, and well, come on, I'm a Brit, for heaven's sake, really. But anyway, and then the US, certainly getting to the US is always, I would say, quite an interesting experience, to put it mildly. And the border guards in the US tend to be fairly robust, is the word I would use, even as a white Briton coming into the United States. So heaven knows what it's like for a Sikh coming in from India, for example. I'm sure they do get pretty hard times. But anyway, I want to talk primarily about the situation in Canada with the RCMP. and this latest update on their own investigations. And again, it just highlights a point that we do bring out quite regularly. And this is this disjoint between the politicians and law enforcement and the intelligence agencies. Yeah. There is this, and it's not just exclusive to India. I think it's very pertinent to most of the Western world when it comes to India, is that our law enforcement and our intelligence agencies obviously know a lot more of what's going genuinely on the ground. They know what India's up to. They are the front line facing these operatives from India, whether it's intelligence operatives or whether it's even the proxy criminals that they are employing to undertake their nefarious business and their transnational oppression. So, of course, whether it's CSIS, whether it's the CIA, or whether it's MI6, all our intelligence agencies are fully aware, and they spend their entire lives not just investigating these things and having to deal with them on the ground, is it trying to advise the politicians and trying to influence the politicians to say, look, this is a threat, you've got to do something about it, because this country and its operatives are a genuine threat to our security as a nation. And this is exactly what's happening in Canada as well as us here in the UK. And likewise, the law enforcement, the RCMP, or our own police forces here in the UK, or the FBI in the United States and law enforcement in the US. Again, we've all got the same issues, is that they are having to deal with these particularly proxy criminals, whether it's the Bishnoi gang, now a terrorist organisation, or whoever, is that they are, again, having to deal with it on the front line, but still trying to pass up through their senior management, who in turn have to talk to the politicians and say, look, we have a genuine problem here. Now, playing devil's advocate, of course, the politicians, they have a very difficult job to do, much as we all like to have a go at politicians. Ultimately, they have got to create policy and act in the best interests of the nation, but also they've got to try and get re-elected at the same time, but also they've got lots and lots of other stakeholders in their decision making. It's not just the rule of law, it's not just criminality, human rights, etc. They've also got the whole commercial aspects of their nation to take care of as well. It's all very well being morally upright and following the rule of law, but if the nation is bankrupt, then what? And it brings up this whole argument. Okay, in reality, you've got to be pragmatic as a politician about this. It is all about balancing. Yes, you do have to have trade to keep your nation going. You do have to keep your nation commercially viable. But at the same time, you've still got to pay service, at least to some degree, to the fact of following the rule of law, etc., etc. So they do have a difficult decision. And I think the way, as we see this unfolding in reality, is, of course, the politicians are fully aware. They know full well whether it is Carney or Trump or Starmer or whoever, Albanese, for example. They all know what's going on. They know India is a genuine threat because they're told probably on a very regular basis by their intelligence services and their law enforcement. But they think, okay, look, how are we going to deal with this? Now, the trouble is, of course, particularly in Canada with Carney, and everybody knows I'm no fan of Carney. We had a bad experience of him when he was here in the UK as a governor of Bank of England. But he was parachuted into Canada. And his predecessor, Trudeau, again, I was no fan of Trudeau, but as I always say, I always lay credit for Trudeau. The one thing he did, absolutely, I will always salute, is he stood up for human rights. He recognised, and he was clearly advised, that one of his own citizens was murdered by another nation on his soil, on Canadian soil. So he stood up and said, we have credible evidence that India did this. And as I said, regularly, that was to his political downfall, or at least his political disadvantage, to have the courage to do that. Carney has not done that. Carney's taken a very clear globalist WEF agenda on this. He said, I don't care, basically. I'll pay lip service to it, but ultimately all I care about is securing global trade. And acting as the true globalist that he is, he's not necessarily acting in Canada's best interest, in my opinion. I'm sure Canadians have got their own opinion on that. But certainly he's acting in the globalist best interest, is that we want trade deals with India. Now, the trouble is that India have got away with this, and we say this regularly. India are getting away, certainly as far as Canada's concerned. India has got away so far with the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This must be to the huge frustration of the RCMP and, of course, the CSIS, who are working every day, fighting tooth and nail to try and win this battle against India, telling their politicians and telling their Mark Carney leaders, look, you do realise what India are up to on our own soil. But kind of saying, no, I accept that. But ultimately, we've got to have trade with India. So India's getting this message. We got away with it, guys. Yeah, I mean, Modi will be laughing with his team and his sort of weekly meetings or daily meetings with Raw. So he'll be chuckling away saying, "Don't worry, guys, you carry on. It's business as normal, business as usual. We're getting away with it. You just carry on." And by the way, tell Lawrence in his Gujarat jail, good job, mate. You know, you've got away with it. Yeah, it's designated a terrorist organisation. Who cares? He's still managing to operate his global network, and that's the message that really is getting back to India. Every time Mark Carney ignores these things and just he's not even paying lip service to it. The point is, he's not even barely mentioning the situation. He's welcoming, he's shaking hands with Modi, he's welcoming Jai Shankar, etc., etc. So it's the message that gets sent out, and I think that is the frustration to, of course, the Sikh community and, of course, every other minority community operating in North America. It is deeply frustrating, but it must be, more importantly, deeply frustrating for those services that are working so hard to protect Canada. But likewise, and I say this and I'm not being hypocritical here, because I lay the same blame to the British government. We know that MI6 and MI5 are doing incredible work to keep our nation safe here in the UK. They know exactly what the Indians are up to. They, of course, will be advising the Starmer government about what's going on, and the Starmer government is doing exactly the same as Carney. In fact, I'd argue even worse. So again, it's not exclusive to Canada, but it must be the frustration, this disjoint between our services that are trying to protect us and our governments that are, well, as I said before, they have so many stakeholders to keep happy. But at the moment, I think the balance has gone too far in favour of the commercial side, the money side, to the detriment of the basic human democratic rule of law and the rights of all of our citizens, James.
Absolutely. And I mean, it is definitely frustrating for law enforcement. I've spoken to law enforcement, talked about this some time back, but when my uncle was killed in a home invasion, very brutally, just a few years back, the Ontario Provincial Police, I had to really balance putting their feet to the fire to give me information versus allowing them to withhold information for the integrity of the case. And let me tell you, as a family member of a victim of violence, it is very frustrating when you can't get the truth and the answers. And I shouldn't say truth, but when you can't get the answers from law enforcement in an investigation involving the death of a very violent death of a family member, it is frustrating and it really prolongs the process. But at the end of the day, I mean, they did a great job. And yeah, I was a pain in their ass, but I held their feet to the fire to make sure that I got every bit of information I could out of them at the same time, trying to give them the respect to withhold what they needed to. So it is it's got to be a tough job for them because, they know that the victims' families want answers and they just, for various reasons, can't give you all the answers until the trial's done.
Yeah, and I think the important lesson there, James, is you rightly say, is that nobody changes unless they are forced to. India won't change unless it is forced to. And at the moment, it's laughing all the way because it knows it's got away with it. And it knows we don't need to change because nobody's forcing us. It is up to our own governments, particularly Carney in this situation, to force India to change, because India will then change if it realises, well, the only way we are, because India wants trade as well. The only way India is ever going to change is it's forced to by our respective governments. And we have the power to do that, but clearly not the will. That's the issue there. So anyway, James, let's move on, and I want to follow that same theme about being forced to change. And my first story, of course, is Punjab University. We've been following this story quite closely. The protest going on at the university that was all down to, and I won't go into the details again, but basically, as a quick summary for those who might not be familiar with the story, is that the Punjab University, a very historic university, one of the oldest in India, it was run democratically. It was governed under a very democratic model where most of the leadership, the senior management team, were elected through various elections of both students and alumni and academics, etc. Central government from Delhi decided, no, we don't like this. It's too much of a Punjab or Sikh powerhouse, and it is a threat to our overall central control. So they have tried to remove the whole governing model and basically replace it with something that is appointed by Delhi, effectively appointed by the BJP. Read the RSS. In other words, it's just another RSS power grab of one of the last bastions of certainly Punjab independence is the university, and so they've they've forced this new system upon the university. As a result, both the students and the academics said, no, we cannot do this, and they came out in protest. So a lot's happened over the last few days, and I'm delighted to say that actually a huge victory has been achieved, and a rare victory, which is great to see. I'm going to, as a basis for the discussion, this is a report that was recently written yesterday, I think, or a couple of days ago, by a couple of Singhs. And although technically it is part of the Govt media, actually the Quint is it's actually a surprisingly impartial and very well balanced article, and a good summary of what's actually happened. As I say, it was written by two Singhs, so it's clearly there is probably a more genuine impartiality there. But just to quickly run through it, Modi has bowed down. This is a quote from Pritam Singh, one of the leaders, along with Ashmeet Singh, of the student protest. And Pritam Singh, he actually said a few days ago, Modi has bowed down in front of Punjabis for the second time within the last 5 years. The centre, by that read RSS, should forget that they can take away Punjab University from Punjabs. So after nearly a month-long protest demanding these new elections, the elections that were removed, a victory march was taken out by the students on the 27th, that's 3 days ago, in which they raised two main slogans that has become basically the rallying cry, the battle cry for this protest. And you have to excuse my pronunciation, but I'm going to give it a go. Mithi Dun Rabab D, Punjab University Punjab D, and Suha Pul Gulabda Chandigarh Punjab Da, which translates as sweet is the tune of the Rabab, Punjab University belongs to Punjab, I think, which speaks for itself. And then this is an important one, the roses crimson, Chandigarh belongs to Punjab. And this obviously points to the fact that the Punjab and the Sikh community particularly are trying to win back Chandigarh to be the capital of the Punjab. So again, that's a very important part of this whole protest. Now, the Bachao Morcha, as it's called in Punjabi, the Punjab University Bachao Morcha was convened with the aim of defeating the BJP regime's policy of centralising PU, the university. As I said, it was all about this power grab to try and regain control of the university. It was run with strategy, boldness and dominance by a sharp leadership. So, but in the Morcha, all student parties were welcome. Now, this is interesting again, and it just highlights this division about who's actually pushing this from Delhi. Of course, it was the RSS. The RSS is student wing. The RSS has 7 separate wings, whether it's political, student, whatever. But one of those wings of the RSS is the ABVP, that is a student manifestation of the RSS. So all student parties were welcomed, except, of course, for the ABVP. And nearly 24 student organisations, including this, and this demonstrates how it was everybody against the RSS. So those who united in this protest amongst the student bodies included the Panthic Sath, the left organisation Lalkar, the leftist SFS, the Liberals in the form of the Liberal Student Front, the Akali Dals SOI, Congress parties NSUI, and Admi parties ASAP. So all of these parties and factions united to make the struggle successful. So of course you can see very clearly there was everybody against the RSS. So we all know who the villain in this story is. And of course the two leaders, Ashmeet Singh and Ramanpreet, a photo. Oh no, so there's a photo of Ashmeet and Lalkar, member Sara, went viral on social media. The caption read, "A son and daughter of Punjab fighting for the rights of Punjab." So again, Ashmeet, one of the very high-profile leaders of this protest. And although the leadership garnered support from a lot of Punjabi organisations, it did, interesting on this one, it kept the policy making, the decision making, the whole protest amongst the students. Whereas in, for example, the farmers' protest in 2021 and then last year, where lots and lots of very powerful, large agricultural organisations, particularly Sikh organisations, united under that huge farmers' protest, and the policy making was actually spread around a lot of big organisations. It was the students themselves who actually ran this, and they did actually find a lot of support from a lot of these other organisations around, not just northwest India, but of course across the whole of India as well, who realised that this battle was not just about Punjab University, it was about primarily RSS and central control from Delhi. So, anyway, as about a bit of the backstory, the article goes on and details a bit of the backstory. But basically, after the centre withdrew the original notification of the withdrawal of those elections on the 10th of November, the students continued. They said, no, that's not enough. We demand a schedule of the Senate elections. In other words, we don't want it suspending. We want it not just cancelling. We want a date for actual elections. New elections which were again delayed from last year, pending this new central control. well, is they're saying, no, we want, you give us a date of these national elections. So, and also, and running in parallel with this, on the 22nd of November, the 131st Constitutional Amendment Bill was brought in, which would end the administrative powers of Punjab's governor and bring an independent administrator to Chandigarh. Again, this is another power grab by the RSS that was reducing the powers of Punjab's governor in Chandigarh and replacing it with what they call an independent governor. By that, again, read an RSS-controlled puppet of Chandigarh. As a result of that, the students convinced shopkeepers to close all their shops on the 26th of November for a massive protest. Now, and here's when I come back to the theme of what we're talking about, James, pressure. Things only change when they are pressured. The Punjab BJP became very wary of the move. So this is the local BJP party. This is the local party of the BJP in the Punjab. They realised what was going on. So they went back to central BJP in Delhi and said, look, we've got a real problem here. You do realise if we're trying to campaign in every election in the Punjab, by introducing this bill and by doing what you're doing against the university, we are hemorrhaging support. We are losing support. We have absolutely no chance of winning anything here in the Punjab if you continue with this. And so as a result of that, and they use as an example, during the farmers' protests, when the BJP leaders were not allowed to enter villages by several farmers' organisations, they were literally banned. You're not allowed to come into our villages. That changed things. So the Punjab BJP raised the issue with the party head office. The next day, it was clarified the government had no intention to bring such a constitutional amendment. So you can see this pressure worked. And again, the article goes on to a lot of the political detail of it, which I won't so we won't have really time to go into it now. But
right.
Just to highlight a few final sort of points here. The way parliamentarians' decisions can be reversed by protesting in the streets, a similar struggle is the way forward in the university, a student leader said. In fact, he was from the PSU Lalkar party, the lefts, was that the Liberals? And the success of these protests will infuse fresh energy into students and rejuvenate the denuding activism in the university. So again, it sent a very clear message, not just to the BJP and central government, that the Punjab will not put up with this. It's actually lit a bit of a fire of motivation in the Punjab again, saying, look, protests are working. The farmers' protests had an impact. We had those dreadful pieces of legislation reversed. Modi did a U-turn after those original farmers' protests. The student protests have forced a U-turn by the BJP government. In other words, keep activism. And again, I always talk about grassroots activism. It works. Keep the pressure up because these things work. And student protests, as I've said several times in the past, student protests particularly have the real ability to literally change the world. There's lots of examples where student protests have brought down governments, have literally changed national policy, and it actually had an international impact. So again, full force to the students and well done to what they've done. You literally can change the world. And according to Ramanpreet, he said, the gathering of Punjabis on the 10th of November sent alarm bells ringing in Delhi. Students conveyed to the Modi government, Punjabis are here to stay and they will protest against any attempt of centralisation. And then after the 26th of November's shutdown, the Bachao Morcha had given a call to protest outside the office in Chandigarh and several other offices in Punjab. This horrified the Modi government as they felt it may trigger larger protests. And this is the key here, because as I said, these things have the ability to build up momentum. Clearly, Modi's government recognised this was more than just Punjab University. This had the potential to lead to something much, much bigger. And again, when I say much, much bigger, of course, I'm talking about Khalistan. Ultimately, things like this can trigger a larger movement, a larger national movement in India, which ultimately could be that catalytic event like the fall of the Berlin Wall, where small events suddenly exploded with momentum and brought down the Berlin Wall. This had the same potential to bring about Khalistan, James. So again, very important story, this. It seems to sort of slightly petered out because it's been a huge victory. Ultimately, though, I believe the protesters are still there and the story still continues. So we'll see where it leads. And just one final point on this. And again, this is just, again, the huge credit, not just to the students, but to the Sikh community and their whole sort of ethos, is that what went viral, this picture went viral of students after the protest clearing up. And I refer you to any protest anywhere around the world, and usually the aftermath of a protest is an absolute bomb site, metaphorically speaking. There's litter everywhere, there's placards, there's discarded banners. It's an absolute mess. These Sikhs, particularly in the university, went around in large groups and cleared up their mess, leaving the place immaculate, spotless. Well done to them, and absolute credit to them, credit to the community. And it has not gone unnoticed, not just nationally in India, but of course internationally. And again, all about spreading the good word, the good image of the Sikh community. There it is writ large, James.
Absolutely. And as you said, I mean, the power of the student body when they get together and they join hands to say that we need to stand tall for what our principles and what we believe in and to make change. And here's a perfect example of how it can work even in India. And yeah, it's a prime example. And I don't want to take much time on this because we are running short of time, but I just wanted to give a huge kudos to those individuals who are cleaning up, because I've seen a lot of protest sites and protest camps here in Canada over the last several years, and it had nothing to do with the Sikhs, but other protests that were going on, and they left just disgusting messes everywhere, and it was up to the taxpayers to foot the bill to clean up after these these protesters. And yeah, so again, this just shows such a high level of respect, not only for the process, but also for the university to clean up after themselves like that.
Yeah, so full credit to them. Well done to the guys there, and full force to the protest. Again, pressure works. Grassroots activism definitely works. I'm going to quickly flash through this second story. Jaggi Singh Johal, again, a story that we will not let go. And we will talking about pressure. We, from our small voice and our little corner in the world, we will continue the pressure on the British government, particularly. Jaggi Singh Johal. And I don't need to recap the story behind Jagtar's arbitrary detention in India. But the news has just come out that sadly he has been moved to a different prison. He was recently moved from Mandoli prison, where has been for the last few years in New Delhi, to Tihar jail, which is also in the Indian capital. Now, his brother Gurpreet, who's been campaigning massively on his behalf, is really trying to keep the pressure up on the British government. He's said any prison in India is a dangerous place for a human rights activist, but Tihar particularly is amongst the very worst. It's terrifying to think of my brother locked up there. The risk that he could be attacked or even killed is not theoretical. It's a daily reality. The UK government is playing with Jagtar's life, and I will be reminding the Foreign Secretary what the stakes are when we meet next week. Now, I mean, God help the British government. If anything happens to Jaggi Singh Johal, I mean, I think will be out in the streets knocking on or throwing my banner at number 10 Downing Street, the house of our British Prime Minister, if anything happens to Jaggi Singh Johal. Firstly, he should not be there in the first place. And secondly, he's now being moved to a prison where we as a nation legally will not extradite anybody. If we are requested by India to extradite somebody, we know to extradite anybody actually, back to India if they've committed a crime. If we know they are being sent to Tihar jail, we are legally obliged not to recognise that extradition, because we recognise that jail as being too dangerous. There's too much torture, too much threat to basic human rights in that jail. Yet, Jaggi Singh Johal has now been moved to that jail. What is the British government doing about it? I think the silence is unsurprisingly deafening. And Reprieve is a legal advocacy, I can't say that word, organisation. Basically, they look after human rights. They have also been behind this campaign, and they've highlighted the UK courts have previously deemed Tihar jail too dangerous for extradition. So we do know legally it is not even acceptable in the UK for anybody, not even a British citizen, but anybody to be put into Tihar jail, in our legal opinion here in the UK. British courts have found that Tihar jail is so dangerous people can't be extradited there, but now an arbitrarily detained British citizen has been sent there, and his government is showing no urgency to get him out. That is the Deputy Executive Director at Reprieve pointing the finger at the Starmer government. Now, interestingly, when I was looking at this story, I came across another story over the weekend. I thought, this is interesting. This is the story of another British citizen. And again, you don't need to know the details of this, other than this guy actually was a criminal by all accounts. He did actually break the law, and it happened in Dubai. And again, I won't bore you with the details, but basically this is a British citizen who was extradited from Dubai to India. Now, they claim he is arbitrarily detained, despite the fact he actually, and again, it's a very complex case. It was to do with fraud. He fraudulently dealt with a loan in Dubai, and he was extradited to India because India had a stake in the case. So he now resides in arbitrary detention in India. And it says in this report that I came across, Yvette Cooper, who's our foreign minister, foreign secretary, Yvette Cooper raised the case of this guy, Michel, when she encountered Indian External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar at the G7. Starmer raised his plight with Indian counterpart Narendra Modi for the second time on October the 9th. He first brought up the issue on July the 24th when Modi visited Britain for the announcement of the UK trade. The Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the ministry that's in charge of it, the UK government continues to raise Mr Michel's case with the government of India at every appropriate opportunity, pressing for progress and a resolution. We remain committed to doing so until the case is resolved. And Whitehall appears to have changed policy by stepping up pressure on South Bloc over Michel's plight after years of apathy by consecutive Conservative governments, etc. And the Labour Party has, in the form of Starmer, who's a former human rights lawyer, Cooper is a seasoned politician, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, in other words, the British government is highly motivated to release this guy who was in arbitrary detention in India. They are raising it at every possible opportunity. Yvette Cooper, even recently, when she didn't talk about Johal, Jaggi, she raised this case. I wonder what the difference is, James. It's pretty clear to all of us.
I'm definitely on your side on that one, Angus. I think that the visuals show it right there. And I think that it is important that they are dealing with it in this manner. And just letting Jaggi sit there. I mean, look at this. We've talked about, and I did a report not long ago about the jail that he's in, and the overcrowding, the lack of even the basic of bathroom facilities. The cockroaches, the other infestation of rodents. I mean, this is not just violence from within and from the guards, but also just the inhumane conditions that people are subjected to. And now, you look at this and you say, okay, why are they fighting for this person to be returned to the UK or to be released and not for Jaggi? And that is showing some type of disparity there. What the hell is going on, Angus?
I think we all know. And ultimately, I mean, this guy, Michel, he as I understand it, he actually broke the law. He is a criminal. That's it. Jagtar Singh Johal is a political prisoner. Yeah, there's a huge difference. Jagtar is being arbitrarily detained for political reasons. And that is all the more reason why the British government should be doing something about it. He didn't break the law. All he did was try to highlight the law breaking of the Indian government. And our cowardly Prime Minister, our cowardly government remain doing absolutely nothing about it. It's a shameful stain on the British government and the British nation. Anyway, James, we're fast running out of time, so we're going to rush into our comments column. Sadly, loads of comments came pouring in from this video, particularly last week. We had a lot of comments and some great comments. Sadly, we don't have the time to go through so many of them that really would love to talk about. Gurpreet, well done, Gurpreet. You were really active on this. There was all sorts of arguments, or let's say discussions, that were going on. And Gurpreet waded in on many of those. Well done to you for your contributions. And as you rightly highlight, the video that we showed, that this guy, Josh, I think his name is, that Josh showed in his podcast, he was referring to the media Bezrigan video, which, James, as you know, is clearly he's either paid by the RSS or is certainly affiliated to the RSS of India, and that's why this guy on his podcast was quite keen to show it, to sort of support his arguments. Again, we don't know if he's actually paid by Hindutva or he's just fallen into the trap of believing what India have been saying about the Khalistan movement. But anyway, Gurpreet's comment follows a lot of very similar comments. And Manveer Singh, likewise, says, good job, guys. Unfortunately, the right-wing elements across the West are being either infiltrated or influenced by the right wing of India, alongside all other battles. Maybe one of the most important is the battle of narratives, which is a difficult one, being we're up against the resources and connections of a huge nation state. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the point, James, is that so many people on the right wing, particularly here in Europe and North America, are being so easily hoodwinked by India into, like this guy. I actually genuinely believe this guy. I don't think he's being paid by India. My belief is actually he's just read a lot of Indian propaganda, and he's just being right wing and said, I agree with this. It's his wretched Khalistanis, James.
Absolutely, but we also have discussed quite a bit about how impactful misinformation and disinformation can be in order to push the algorithms and increase the views on videos, which at the end of the day, that's what these YouTubers are looking for, to create the controversy, but to get their name out there and to push the numbers up on their channels as well.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating for, I mean, not just us, but also for the Sikh community when they see stuff like this, saying, look, come on, mate. All it takes is a little bit of research to come out with a statement like Sikhs want to kill everybody. I mean, it was a silly statement to make. It's clearly unfounded, but again, it's great for clicks. It's great for clickbait, but it is actually deeply offensive to a very large community globally, not just in Canada. And Nitant June makes this comment. This is an interesting one. White racists hate everyone. It's nothing to do with India paying. So this person believes it's nothing to do with the fact that he's being paid by Hindu, but it's just a simple, good old, as I said actually in the other show, he's just a good old-fashioned racist. And who knows, James?
Very well could be. We know that, unfortunately, we do have those in Canada and the US and anywhere else in the Western world.
Indeed,
or
do,
any
sadly.
other nation.
Indeed.
Actually.
In fact,
it's sad but true.
It's part of the human condition that every community has racists on their extremes. So it's not exclusive to white people, I'll say that. KJB Singh, great effort to expose the hollowness of so-called largest democracy. Hindutva is still not fully understood by the West. And this whole point is about saying, look, India is playing a very clever game, very shrewd game. They've got these huge resources which they're using to try and infiltrate and manipulate Western democracies. And I say Western democracies, of course, I include Australia and New Zealand in that. But ultimately, we've got to be wary of their sweet smiles and their black hearts, as Winston Churchill once said, James.
And it is a very good statement to follow, I think, not just in India, but elsewhere, around the globe. So
yeah, Winston Churchill really had the number of Indians. He understood India very, very well. But this is an interesting discussion. This actually turned into quite a long thread and quite an interesting, I wouldn't quite say argument, but it was certainly a discussion, a robust discussion. And it was started off by Brinter, who said, the whole point is all about Hinduism. Christians are trying too hard to take down Hinduism, though. You can't, though. They're liars. Their lies are all coming home now. It's now the era of truth. It's now the era of Sanatan or Hinduism. All Abrahamics, and I think that refers to Christians, and all the lying religions, no matter how much they try, are not going to stay on anymore for much longer. Look at how much they're clawing all about. Basically, this person, Brinter, is clearly a Hindu, and saying that Hindu is essentially taking over the world, is that the Christians are a threat and they're trying too hard to take down Hinduism, and Hinduism is on the rise. Now, Gurpreet, you did try very hard on this one to try and sort of set this Brinter right, and said it's not true. Everyone who came after Hinduism, now explain, what are your sources? People are so confused about Hinduism as no one knows the exact history, or it's just mythology. And if you are a Sikh, Brinter came back, says, please don't fall for the Christians' lies. In other words, Brinter's saying that all you Sikhs are falling, you're being manipulated by we Christians. And Christians apparently have radicalized Muslims. They've been radicalizing a lot of Sikhs too. Please don't be manipulated, or please don't be seduced by the Christians, evil Christians, etc., etc. And the rest of it. Anyway, so there's lots of points here, which again, sadly, we don't really have the time to pick apart. But first of all, I would say, and I'm no expert on Hinduism, but certainly I've been reading about Hindutva recently, and Hinduism is one of the oldest religions in the world. But actually, when you read about what Hinduism is, it's basically, my interpretation, it's a collection of lots and lots of different religions that have all just been sort of almost forcibly brought together into one name. And it's a little bit like paganism with Christianity. Christianity's roots, particularly in Europe, was all about bringing in lots of pagans and different pagan rituals into one banner and almost absorbing them, and so they became Christians. And Hinduism is a little bit the same. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, Hinduism went back 10,000 years. If you say, well, those people who worship this god and those people who worship that god or that idol, yeah, they're all Hindus. Well, actually they weren't, but ultimately that's what the Hindu story is. That's how they claim that they're so old. So again, the whole foundation of that argument, I think, is very questionable. Now, the argument is, are Christians trying to take down Hinduism? I don't know. But Christian extremists are probably doing that. But the comment about Christians have radicalized Muslims, I think that's a little step too far. I think radicalized Muslims have been radicalized by their own community, but that's a whole different discussion. I don't think Christians are responsible for that. But what I would say, Jens, is one final point from my side is that Christians definitely are guilty of all sorts of I would say, robust missionary work. In other words, trying to convert people even forcibly. The Christians have a terrible history in that respect. The Catholic Church, likewise, has a terrible history, as in fact most religions, James, other than Sikh, ironically.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. And I mean, you don't even have to look outside of Canada for that. When you look at the history of the Indian residential schools and the way in which the different churches were involved in trying to, break away these children from their own history, their culture, their language, and their faith, and force them into, being whitewashed essentially. So we can see that, and it's something that happens with all religions for the most part, except, as you said, Sikh. We don't see that where they are trying to forcibly convert people. They instead want to encourage you to be the best of whatever faith you choose to be.
Yeah, it's fundamentalism. It's religious fundamentalism is actually, in my opinion, one of the great evils of humanity. It's fundamentalism, whether it's Christian, whether it's Hindu, whether it is Islam, whether it's Judaism. It's the fundamental extremists who really are the problem for normal everyday society. And again, that's a whole show on its own. So let's not go down that rabbit hole. But thank you, Brinta, for your opinion. I would say I don't think it is the era of Sanatan. Hinduism, I would say religion on the whole, the larger religions, I would say actually are declining as opposed to rising. So Critics Corner does make a reappearance, and I would say thank you, Mahender, for your many comments. You did wade in quite again robustly in Critics Corner. Lots of comments, and sadly we don't have time to go through each point that you raised. But what I would say is all these points we have addressed so often. You talk about ISI-sponsored Khalistani terrorists. No, they're not. Even if the Khalistan movement is actually aligned with ISI interests, that's more coincidental than actually being a cause of ISI policy. The Khalistan movement has existed for a very long time, and it is driven for a very simple fundamental reason. And it just happens to, if it happens to align with ISI's policy, all the better. It doesn't mean that the ISI are behind it. It's quite the opposite. And you say, again, same old. You say lots of Punjabi friends in Canada, they basically cut themselves off from India. You say that... where's that point? I can't say. Anyway, but again, same old point. Over 98% have no desire to leave India. They say that they're there to earn money and support their family, it seems, in Canada. And they left India. They've cut their ties with India. And so again, it's that old point. The Khalistan movement only exists outside of India. Well, that's not the case. It's just that pro-Khalistanis in Punjab can't put their heads above the parapet because they end up in prison, etc., etc. And the first comment I will talk about, this too are so stupid. Overall, white people need to stay out of Indian issues. I think that's a valid point. I mean, why should we interfere in Indian politics? Absolutely. I would just say that we align with the Khalistan cause. We have an opinion. It is in our democratic nation, unlike in India. It is our right, our prerogative, and our ability to stand up and, as you call it, interfere in Indian politics because we have an opinion and we like to express it, James.
Absolutely. Let's not take light heart of what happened in 1947 with partition at the hands of the British and the white people. And so therefore, to make reparations for that, of course, there's going to be involvement of various individuals. But let's also not forget that global human rights are a global issue. And that means that every person, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, doesn't matter. Everybody has a say and everybody has a voice when it comes to trying to stand up for human rights violations, which we see frequently in India.
Yeah, and I think the final comment for Mahender is where you say you are a Punjabi Sikh, you live peacefully in Punjab, thanks to India who protects us from our enemies. Well, sadly, and I find this quite sad, is that you have been completely manipulated by the Indian state into believing that they are protecting you from your enemies. Who actually are your enemies? It's not actually Pakistan. Your enemies are within. Your enemies are your own government, the ruling elite who are keeping you effectively under control. So wake up, sadly, is my comment. But thank you anyway for your contribution. And the final set, we're running out of time, Jen, so to flash through these. Sam Singh says, truth always remains the truth, regardless of lies being told. As we say, James, the truth always prevails.
And that's what we're here for.
And RJ says, well, thanks us for such a great show. Well, thank you. Again, as we always say, we couldn't do this without you guys. So thank you for all your lovely comments and your support. So do keep it up. Hat B, again, one of our regulars. Punjabis and Sikhs, thank you guys from all over the world. Well, thank you again. Thanks for being the voices of Punjabis and those who've suffered oppression, torture and death because of this Indian propaganda. Well, as we say, we're only a tiny, tiny voice, James. We're doing our bit, we hope. But there are the others out there who are doing a much, much bigger job than us. Ashmeet Singh, Ramanpreet Singh, etc. Actually on the ground in Punjab. They are the guys who really are literally risking their lives on a day-to-day basis to stand up for the community. They're the people who we salute, and we will do our little bit from our little corner to at least support them, James.
And boy, what a show it'll be when we are airing from Khalistan and bring them on as guests.
There's something to look forward to. Absolutely. The Khalistan Broadcasting Corporation will be interviewing lots and lots of these key characters once the new nation of Khalistan is established, under which we'll finish with Jaskarat Singh's comment, Waguruji ka Khalsa, Wariguruji Chadi Kala. Khalistan Zindabad, always the best way to finish the show. But that's it for another day. Thanks so much for watching, and do keep the comments coming. Thank you for all your comments last week. Loads came in, much appreciated. But do keep them coming. Don't forget, of course, you can message us directly at message@satlugetv.com if you've got any opinions or you want to get in touch about anything. But that's it for another day. Thanks so much for watching. It's a goodbye from me. It is a goodbye from James.
Stay safe, everyone.
You have, of course, been watching Perspectives. We will see you next time.